But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Cellar Cup weekend at St James's Park. And before we get into the nitty-gritty of NUFC over the last 7 days, let's say a big happy birthday to Mozza. Happy birthday, Mozza. The show is dedicated to Mozza. It is her birthday. She's on a jolly halls. I hope you're having a great time. I hope Alan's spoiling you rotten. And well, as we can see by the cake that's come out there, he certainly is trying his best. So great stuff. Yeah, they definitely are. Have a wonderful holiday. This show is dedicated to them. Now, I normally keep this for tweet of the week as well, but this is a special mention all on its own. And this was a picture sent from Mark Spence. He goes, "This is a drawing from my little 7-year-old Jay, who loves watching a bit of the Amigos with his old dad on a Friday. He would love it if you could show it tomorrow." So, Jay, thank you very much. I've got to be honest, I was very, very surprised when this hit Twitter. And when I've seen it, I looked at it, I thought it was great. And I'm going to pay particular attention in bottom left, George. Now, that is a very good picture of George, Jay. So keep on doing what you're doing, and you could have as much money as Banksy, and your dad can retire. So you have a good weekend. Let's hope Newcastle win. But thank you so much for that wonderful drawing. I'm sure the lads will have a word to say about that as well. Mitch, what do you think about that?
I love that. He's taking a couple of Clem offers as well. That's fantastic.
And Steve, what about you? I've noticed there's no... is that a dog in the bottom corner there?
I think it is, yes. Looks like it. I tell you what, it's brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. What a great tribute. What a great artist as well. Well done, young man. Well done.
Brilliant stuff, Jay. Thank you very much. And thank you. We'll dedicate the show to you as well for your wonderful piece of artwork. So thank you very much for sending that in. Okay, I wanted to start with ACLs, Mitch, because you know a fair thing about it. Steve does as well, because as we'll find out, one of his relatives has just had an ACL. But Livramento, we think it's probably the next worst kept secret in football that he is going to become a Newcastle player. He's just about agreed. We've got to go through the medical. Eddie Howe wouldn't give away too much today about it, but an ACL, Mitch, is that something to be worried about? You know, Eddie Howe said this is what medicals are for. We'll find out if there's any issues. Not wanting to talk about Livramento in general, but is it as bad an injury as it was 25 years ago when Al got one?
Certainly isn't. I mean, it nowadays with the surgical techniques and what have you, it's not the definitive career-ending injury that it used to be. The biggest challenges is no two ACL injuries are quite the same, because you don't always just do your ACL. Sometimes it'll be your lateral, your medial, or your PCL, or you do your meniscus and your cartilage at the same time, and all these little extras that happen. So, for example, if anybody saw that horrendous injury in the Copa Libertadores through the week, where the lad's leg just about turned around 360 degrees, there was no break involved with that. That was all ligaments, apparently. So he's basically done absolutely every ligament in his knee. So it would depend on the severity. And I know there's loads of data in ACLs now across sports injuries, and obviously everybody knows my liking for American football, and there's a hell of a lot of ACL data from American football. And I think that the biggest thing that comes out of it is a lot of the return to play time. Once the return is confidence, how confident they are in their knee. And that seems to be one of the biggest factors about whether the player feels 100% as soon as they're returning to play, or whether it takes anything up to a year for them to feel 100%. For most, apparently the average return to play time is 230 days for the Premier League. So that's why when they say return to play is 9 to 12 months. And that's probably some of that will be defined by how the severity of the injury and has anything else been damaged in there. But then after that, if you look at the data from American football, running backs across the board, most of them say they don't feel 100% until the second year. And then it takes that long to do it. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen now is that the part of the rehab for football, because the curious thing with football is obviously everything's to do with that knee, from kicking the ball to running, is they advise you not to kick a ball for anything up to 6 months. And they're saying, no ball work for a long time. It shouldn't be something that's too much of a worry. However, if you look across all sports, the data suggests 2/3 of athletes who've had an ACL, or rather 1/3 of the athletes who've had an ACL, feel after 5 years they're not performing at the level that they were when they had the ACL injury. So there is a risk, and I think that's why everybody should be. But that's what there is a risk, but that's what medicals are for. I think that's exactly what the manager said. That's what the medicals for. They'll see how well he's recovered. They'll see how well he's done. And there's definitely a mental part to it too. You look across all sports, a lot of the people who feel they've returned to the level that they should have done, that's because they actually trust their knee. Now, whether that's because, I guess in football, you've got the peculiar thing that you could go into training and the first day back at training, when they're saying, right, you can kick the ball, you can get involved with full contact again, go into a crunching challenge on day one and you walk away from it and your knee's not wobbling all over the place, you probably feel quite damn good about it. So mentally, you're probably getting a good boost from that. The other interesting data that I saw was the ACL now only has a 4% recurrence rate. And that's testimony to the surgery that they're doing now. A lot of the times what they do now is they take part of the patella tendon on the kneecap, rebuild the ACL with that. But nowadays you're also supplementing stuff with things like stem cell therapy and ozone therapy, which stimulate healing. And that makes a massive difference. The stem cell stuff they're doing now is quite radical, actually. They got Cam Akers, who's running back for the Rams, who tore his Achilles, and he came back in record time, and it was from some clever modern stem cell procedure that they'd invented specifically for that case, and he was the first one they tried it with. And so his return to play time was 9 months instead of 16. So these kind of things are happening in sports medicine now. I don't know where Livermore had his knee done and which surgeon did it and what part of the country he had it done in. But one would assume whoever's done it has done it well, because we've just agreed a 30 million fee for him.
Yeah, 100%. Steve, Sonny's gone through an ACL, hasn't he?
He has, yes. Sonny hurt his knee back in October, September, October. Misdiagnosed at first, which didn't help. Tried to continue playing and didn't manage it. Had to wait. Had various assessments done, as I say. Didn't really come back and say that it was an ACL. Then went and saw a specialist. Took an awful long time to see that specialist. Specialist came back in, I think it was February, March, and said, it's definitely an ACL, son. This is a young lad who was only 17, by the way. And obviously he was devastated. There was then told there would be another 9-month wait for an operation if you wanted to wait on the NHS. So you're talking potentially that would have probably made it sort of nearly 20 months out. And then after the operation, you were talking about a 9 to 12 month recovery to get you back fully fit, fully mobile, if you follow the surgeon's instructions. So what Sonny ended up doing was having the operation done privately. had it done. One of the way that the surgeon locally said, and we're talking about a top surgeon. I spoke to a couple of orthopedic specialists that I met up at the Freeman through work, and they were telling me that the guy that Sonny was being looked after was basically the top man in the Northeast. Had done many professional footballers, and his advice was that if you come back and you start kicking the ball after 3 or 4 months, there was probably only a 30% success rate. That success rate would increase to over 40 after 4 to 5 months. And this is with that before you kick a ball. His advice was that you don't kick a ball for at least 9 months. And with that, till he tells you. And if you followed his instruction, quite happy to do running, quite happy to do some lateral work, but not kicking a ball because of the forces. And he said, if you wait until he tells you, which, as I say, could have been 9 months and beyond, he would give you 100% success rate. But it was all down to what you did and the patience. Now, the operation Sonny had, I believe, took a graft of a muscle in the thigh, and what they do is they stretch it, a bit like getting an elastic band, stretch it, and then they fold it, then stretch it again and fold it and stretch it again, and basically twisting and folding, and that's giving that muscle the strength, and then that is then grafted in, and what happens is that muscle then teaches itself to become and react like a ligament because of the twisting and turning, and it's knitting itself together. And that was the operation that they performed. That's when they make the muscle solid and it's grafted. I don't think it's the graft as much as anything. It's how that muscle then regenerates itself. And as you say, Mitch, you can have it can be added professionally depending on the damage with stem cell injections and things like that. Anyone who knows Sonny will know that he's been down with the Peter Bielsi Soccer School, working with Peter and Steve Watson, who was down there one day a couple of weeks ago. He did a lot of work with, again, earlier in the year with Nobby Solano, who was also down at the soccer school, but has yet to kick a ball because he's following the advice. He wants to come back properly. And for a young lad, I think that's very difficult, but also very sensible. I think what we're saying is that if, for example, you look at Emil Kraft, he's not available this weekend. Emil Kraft's been out for quite a long time. And Mitch can probably tell us how long it is since Livramento had his injury and when it was that he started kicking the ball again, or at least got back into a fully fledged game rather than training. But Emil Kraft's been out since last August, September. Still not fit, because when you do come back, again, as you say, Mitch, you've got the confidence aspect, but you've also got other injuries that occur because there are other muscles that you need to strengthen. You know, your other leg, for example, that you haven't got a problem with. Your whole gait might have changed when you were on crutches, and you've got to remember as well, with professional footballer, they're like a thoroughbred stallion. You know, they're going to feel everything, and but when they come, I mean, these guys are super fit to begin with. But just, you know, that 1-2% difference can affect a professional footballer, because, as you say, in his mind, he's thinking, oh, if I hit that. We've also spoken a lot about ACLs in the women's game. And I don't know about you, but I mean, we hear an awful lot. And we've talked about it many times privately and on the show, about boots and about the women's gait and about the pelvis and the height. But I watched the young girl who got injured last week, who everybody thought was an ACL. And as I've noticed on a couple of occasions when it's been televised and you've seen some of the girls go down with what has become an ACL, it's often overstretching. It's often a short pass, a pass without pace, which results in the person who's receiving the ball to overstretch. And that in itself says an awful lot. The pace of the game, the pace of the ball, the way that the surface that you're playing on, the way that the ball might hold up in the turf, and then you overstretch because you're physically fit and you're expecting the ball to come that little bit quicker, but it doesn't, and then you react and then you overstretch. And I think there's an awful lot of things going on, both in the men's game and the women's game. But I think also in the women's game they get affected by playing on different surfaces. You look at St James's Park and it's like a bowling green. And then you see some of the, in the WSL, some of the women's teams, Arsenal, Chelsea, they're playing at what basically are, not much better than park football in terms of the quality of the surfaces at times. Some of them play on artificial pitches. So I think that, moving from one surface to another, you just look at Newcastle ladies as well. I mean, they play at Druid Park, they play at Whitley Park, they play at Kingston Park on artificial, and they play at St James's Park. That in itself, and anyone who's ever played football knows, in the old days when you played on a 4G or a 3G even, the difference in how you felt and the little twinges that you felt in your knee or your ankle or your toes or whatever, just from the surfaces. So I think we're not doing the ladies' game much, giving them much help in that respect. But getting back to Livramento, 40 million, and as you say, that's what it's all about. It's all about how the lad is when it comes to the medical and what the specialist, and if he's been held up. And just a message to Andy. Andy, I would have worn the green if I could have bought one at the Metro Centre, despite all the advice that was given to us, because they only had small and medium, and I'm a little bit bigger than that now.
Yeah, this is one of the ones I was waiting for. I've got the other one as well. And with regards to Livramento, his injury was in April 22, and he made his first competitive reappearance in May 23, so 13 months.
Right.
Okay, there we go. Well, I just thought it was nice to start with that because we do have a little bit of knowledge on the old ACL, and it just seemed to me that everybody who's getting wheeled out at the minute on Sky and Talk Sport, etc., seems to be an expert on them, and everyone now seems to be saying, they're not what they were, and they heal quicker. Well, it's not quite the case. So I just thought that.
Another thing, Steve, we've got a friend. I'll not name him, but we've got a pal who did his ACL and his ankle and such like, and it took him 4 or 5 years to just get the confidence to play in 7-8 games, Mm-hmm. So it just goes to show it can have a mental as well as a physical effect.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. XXL home strips are like hen's teeth, says Tim. The other news we need to know that Tim asked is how is your dad, Mitch? Because he was going in for a minor bit of surgery on his blasted eyes. We're hoping that this time it's going to be okay. Any news?
No, nothing as yet. No, we're not expecting so, because I suspect he won't be able to get to use his phone until tomorrow at the earliest, I would imagine. So it's just a case of no news is good news and sit tight. Well, he was in good spirits when I spoke to him just before he went down this afternoon, and I know he was in and out of some of the group chats we've got and things like that. So he seemed to be in good form.
Can't put a good man down.
No, you definitely can't. Okay, it's been another appointment. Tom Dixon was quick in with this as usual. Newcastle have appointed Jonathan Kane as the club's new director of partnerships. Okay, Mitch, I mean, it's another signing behind the scenes. We keep pointing to the fact that they are going to be doing this, on a regular basis, out with the old, in with the new. It couldn't happen on the first day of the takeover, but, we're not a new owner club anymore. It's now, it's now well and truly their club. We've pointed it out in other shows this week. So Jonathan Kane comes in from Liverpool.
Liverpool, yeah.
Know anything about it?
Not particularly, other than he's obviously far better than the last person we had in that position, which was no one. It just shows you what they're having to do to get us to the level of a functional, high-end Premier League club. How much of a ghost town that St James's Park is. How much... But there's something else, another point I'll make, but probably later on. Now's not the time to do it. But, there were so many empty spaces, and Charlie seemed to be doing everything from answering the phones to washing the dishes to printing the tickets, that, how could we ever compete on a commercial level without the right people in place. Also answers the question for me, why haven't we got any new sponsors lined up? Well, he's the man that's probably going to do a lot of it. Now, you see, it's building blocks. It's, right, we've got the shirt front sorted. We now have a value for the shirt front sorted. That gives us the benchmark for other partnerships like this. So now we can start doing it. Well, who's going to do them? Well, the best run clubs have a director of partnerships. Right, who do we need? Where we're going to headhunt someone from? And none of this happens kind of overnight. I wish it would, but it doesn't. You know, will he be able to link the sponsors and Castoria up better? Will he be able to put his size 9 right in Castoria's backside? Yes, hopefully. To get things right. And so these are the movements being made that make us not just a good club on the pitch, but off it as well. And off it, we're so far behind everybody else. It just gives you an idea, you know.
Yeah.
And why suddenly so much of the ground's been turned over to new offices. Well, we need people to fill them, because that's what a proper Premier League team does behind the scenes.
Steve, it's another appointment. Barry's asking, do you think this £900 million deal for Man U shirt is where we have to be aiming at? I mean, Christ, give Jonathan Kane a chance to get his feet under the table. But yeah, I think we do think that, Barry. But yeah, Steve, it's another appointment behind the scenes.
Absolutely. I'm just delighted Mitch explained it, because when it came up, I thought director of partnerships, this is something to do with us going into Europe. This is something to do with extra games, traveling away. This guy's going to come along and explain to my wife why I'm going away for a couple of days for an away game. I thought that's what it was about. I thought that was the partnerships, and it's trying to keep it together. But fantastic that it, maybe we also need that sort of marriage guidance. Maybe that coming handy. But no, I mean, this is, as you say, this is what proper clubs do when they feel as though that he's basically going to manage the relationship that we're going to have with the sponsors and companies that we're going to be linked with that Silverstone's going to go out and get. Silverstone's the job. He's going to be responsible for going and getting these partnerships, and somebody's going to be responsible for the maintenance of it, how that interacts, where it can fit in with other aspects of the club in terms of their promotion, their face, if you like, their product, the product placement, what they can offer to also supporting the academies and the women's team and the under 21s and perhaps the foundation, and so it goes on. You know, it's basically opening them up to the community. It's that step up, but it's making sure that it fits in with the ethos of the club, that you're getting the it's all well and good getting a partner, but if that partner then wants to go off on a tangent and is expecting an awful lot more, then somebody has to rein it in the same way as if they feel as though the club is not doing enough to support that sponsorship and that money and investment that they're putting in. That's where the relationship works. So it's going to be a two-way stretch. I think it's a fantastic job for somebody, and obviously the guys had experience at Liverpool, so these are all positives. The fact is that we're going out and we're headhunting people from Man City and Liverpool and Man United, and the finance director, Leicester City, the new guy that we brought in, who I bumped into a couple of weeks ago when I was up there talking about the food bank, and he introduced himself, which was very nice. That's where we're heading. You know, we're filling in. And I know you mentioned Charnley there. You mentioned Lee Charnley and printing the tickets. I thought you were going to say maybe we need them back to print some of these tickets, but obviously we've gone electronic, so that's another job that's gone from them.
Andrew, the squad numbers are in the Chronicle tonight, and on the Newcastle United website. There is a few surprises. Certain people thought that Tonali was going to be 20. The club, I think, almost encouraged the fact that it would be by playing him in a friendly, but he's not. He's number 8. Anthony Gordon's number 10, Barnes is 15, but the full squad numbers are on Newcastle United's website. You'll be able to find them there today. Wow, that first half hour has flown over. As always, we have a lot to get through on a Friday night. It's time for Tweet of the Week. The virtual post bag for these gets bigger each week. Zara has been on form as well. As always, I like to start with a Star Wars one. Only a Star Wars fan will see this.
Very good.
Good old Yoda there. And in the words of Kenny Rogers, you picked a fine time to leave me, loose wheel. Our winner of Tweet of the Week last week was the Bearded Man. He didn't win this week, but he sent this in at the gym. Not sure whether that's a reflection on where he was this week. And Stephen, thanks for this one. From the street, Lana's party is way more interesting. And following in the same theme, couple, can you take a picture? Me, sure. Can you move a little to your right? A little more perfect. And this one from Neil Skinner. The older I get, the more I regret all the people I've lost over the years. Maybe being a trail guide wasn't such a great idea after all. When I first got that, I thought it was a hasty lookalike, but it's not.
I was waiting for that.
Sam hired a handyman. He gave him a list. When he got home, only 1, 3, and 5 were done. Turns out he only does odd jobs.
Odds. Thanks.
And a man hit by a flying power tool. He said that everything was fine, then bosh.
Very good.
Look carefully on this one, lads. I had to look twice as well. That one, honestly, it was sent in by somebody who I would never expect from. I'm not going to name them, but I just didn't expect that from the person who sent it in. But thank you. Very funny. And you'll be very pleased to see that it made Tweet of the Week. Okay, next one is this one. How did you meet your husband? Well, I'm a pharmacist. He came to buy huge condoms, asked for XXXXXXL. And only then, after we got married, I realised he had a stutter. Got home from work today, said Stephen, to find the kids had all been on eBay all day. If they're still there tomorrow, I'll lower the price, he said. And this one from Dunnell. Apparently, owls can't mate. When it's raining, it's too wet to woo.
Oh.
In the midnight hour, she cried, more, more, more. And Jimmy Moore wondered, a man has been stealing wheels off police cars. Police are working tirelessly to catch him.
Very good, Jimmy.
A funny pic from Alan, who's on his holidays. Oh dear, my bone mats might not look good for my neighbours.
Yeah.
And a bit of seaside comedy here. Soda Pop Kid, Tweet of the Week. Bad news, it's curiosity.
Oh. Very clever.
My day is just crap. What's wrong? Beer frozen, burnt me pizza, and girlfriend's pregnant. You just can't pull anything out on time, can you? And why can't you hear pterodactyl use the bathroom? Because the P is silent.
Oh, dad joke that.
I don't know. Something about him just seems kosher. It doesn't seem kosher. Very good. Soda Pop Kid on fire this week with his tweets. And why don't you see dwarf shopping in Aldi? Because they're little people.
Oh, nice soda.
They Walk Among Us from Keith Patterson. I
like that. That was good. That's good.
And this is the entrance to Twitter, says Cole. Arguments Yard. Very good. Was that a T-Rex that was talking to you? Yeah, he just sold me a few handguns. What? Why? He's my small arms dealer.
Oh, great.
Do not consume if seal is broken. It's the seal of the shark. And a cucumber can freshen your breath, says Miss Piggy. Not the way you use it, says Kurt.
Oh, okay, man.
This one from Stu Penman. He said, bad day at work, been away, and he managed to cut 2 fingers off my right hand. I said to the doctor, will I still be able to write with it? He said, probably, but I wouldn't count on it.
Stewie.
The wife loves it when I leave notes for her around the house, says Ian Kelty. Don't flush, gone to get tape measure, possible world record. And my girlfriend dumped me, so I stole a wheelchair. Guess who came crawling back, says Stephen Kennedy.
Oh.
Quite wise, used one of Rocky's greatest characters for that, I don't know. This was at a bus stop, aimed at me, perhaps. And another one from Stephen, when the missus packs for a 2-night break.
Yes.
We've all been there. Here, some don't stand so close to bees. And don't eat the hard bit on the back, they make you fart, says the two. Two people sending sharks in, I think, with a flyer that we did. Mum, an alcoholic. See those 2 boats over there? An alcoholic would see 4. But Mum, there's only 1 boat. Keeping on the boat theme, yeah, not what I expected either, said the 2 guys on the glass bottom tour. And you only mac and molasses, says Stephen. Can't believe I'm pregnant again. Must be something in the air. Yeah, your legs.
Yummy.
And in the ghetto from Ian Hull.
There's always a singing one.
This was brilliant from John, the Belfast Magpie. Steve Bruce Oppenheimer came to see me at Princeton University. He asked me about some calculations regarding the atom and how it could be split to make a bomb. We talked for a short time, and then I told him how to do it. Thanks to Steve Bruce for that. Tell me, Mary, do you use drugs? No, Mother. Why? Because you're chopping the onion with your bank card. Well, this is awkward when your secret is finally outed. And another one from Jimmy. Our subs are an honest 8 inches even when it's cold outside. Drive through. Some of these signs in America, Jimmy. Wow. Mother, can you fix me computer? Me leans back in chair. Well. Isn't Miss Get Off That Computer years 1994 to 2006? Well spotted, this guy again, Wayne. Bro, do you want to be seen or not?
Classic. Another one. Brilliant.
And hey, friend, it's been a long time. How you doing? I'm doing well. Oh my God, you got shot in the ass. Are you okay? Stop it, Kevin. I'm pregnant, you arsehole. Brilliant. Uncle Monitor, at my first for the Scousers. A few people sent me that. And SMB relief tablets are now available in capsules. Effective seething relief from being a mac. Thanks, Tita. God knows what Sandro and his missus are making of this weather, said Steve McKenna.
That's true.
And seems legit. I got sent this today. HMRC refund. You have an outstanding tax refund of £328.36 from 22 to 23. Follow the instructions to claim your money. Is this a scam? He said. No. Swear on your mum's life, he said. I swear, bro. The food crisis is affecting rats now. A mouse dies of heart attack in supermarket after seeing the price of cheese. That's definitely a rat, not a mouse.
That definitely is.
And did you know I invented the game of silent tennis? What is silent tennis? It's just regular tennis, but without the racket.
Oh, dear.
Thanks, Wayne. I'm not sure why this reminded Brian of the 3 Amigos. I mean, there's 3 of them.
Brian, worrying.
Gives John an idea for a flyer, I'm sure, in the future. Mac and Playmate of the Month, July 23 edition. Thanks, Stephen. And this one had me. I had to look twice at this, lads. Ancient skull found on archaeological dig is proof of our alien origins. It's not until you look at it properly you realise it's an actual carton. But I actually looked at that. I looked at that for over a minute, lads. I'm afraid.
Never.
I did. It was first thing in the morning. That's my only excuse. Okay, here's your top 3. The best named divorce lawyers in history. Ditch Check, Quick and Hide. Divorce lawyers. Number 2, breaking news on Sunderland Global Media this week. A Plains Farm man's been sentenced to community order after he soiled himself in front of a Springwell school and then attempted to clean his backside in broad daylight with San Miguel lager.
Yeah,
that is a true story. I did click on the link to that, and that was a true story. Winner of Tweet of the Week this week. Sorry for the angry post. from Ian Hull. Great stuff. Thanks, Zara. Thanks to everybody who contributes. I know it gets slightly longer each week, but we do enjoy them. And I do get lots of messages saying you enjoy the chuckles. So thanks to everybody who sent them. More of them next week. Sean says he's still waiting on his kit delivery, but how's the fit, Mitch?
Like everybody says, go size up.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want one of the polo shirts as well, exactly the same.
Yeah. Sean, interesting one here. He says Livramento is costing 40 odd mil, 32 million plus add-ons, depending on how he performs, etc. I think he's a great player. I genuinely think he'll play in Miggy's position ahead of Trippier on the right. His delivery's A1. Where do you think he'll play, lads? Interesting that. Like, I mean, Ashby's gone out today to Swansea, the worst kept secret in football, part 20 over the since the owners came in a couple of years ago. But yeah, I mean, he's coming in as cover for Trippier, isn't he?
Not necessarily. I'd heard a suggestion that he could be played further up the pitch because he could fit into the system. And again, it's about delivery and what he can put into the box. So wouldn't surprise me to see a bit more versatility in there for rotation with the amount of games that we've got and all of that. For me, he comes in on the premise of being a right fullback, but we've still got Kraft there. I'm presuming Mankala will be allowed to go now. But for me, yeah, it was a discussion we sort of touched on and never completed before a couple of weeks ago about when we were interested in. But was he coming in as right back cover, or was he coming in to do something ahead of Trippier potentially? And I think that's absolutely correct.
He's one of those players, though, and he joined an ever-growing list at Newcastle who's versatile, who doesn't just play in one position, which is massively important going forward, especially with Champions League coming up as well. What's your thoughts, Steve, on this signing? And I mean, it's versatility, isn't it? It's key.
Yeah, you know what? Versatility is massive for the team, for the squad, but often can be a bit of an Achilles heel for the player himself. I think Steve Watson is a perfect example, who played every position.
And Aaron Hughes.
Aaron Hughes, another one. You know, was he a centre half? Was he a midfielder? Was he a right fullback? And the list, people will probably start putting names up now because we've had plenty of them. It's the same with Miggy. Is he a left-sided or right-sided? He's left-footed, plays on the right. I personally thought he was coming in as cover for Trippier, but what he also might do is it might put a bit more pressure on the likes of Matt Targett, because if there is a bit of versatility there, perhaps he could move on to the left, or alternatively could if you wanted, move Trippier on the left. I think Trippier played in England squad on the left-hand side for a few games during the Euros, if I remember rightly. Probably only one game and probably only half a game at that, now that I've mentioned it, but somebody will probably tell us that I'm totally wrong. But yeah, I mean, let's face it, we're stacking out what we think is an awful lot of money for a footballer, but in today's climate, 30 million, 32 million plus add-ons, 35 million plus add-ons, 40 million. I've seen all of those prices. I'm
not paying the English tax for it as well. He's England under 20 international.
Yes.
And they don't cheap. And
apparently also there was the Chelsea tax, because that was the problem that Southampton had. We talked last week about there being a £25 million release clause in his contract that said that they got first refusal at 25 million. It now transpires, if you read certain people in the London press, that there was also a sell-on fee. So that's why they're alleging that Southampton played hardball and wanted more than Newcastle had originally offered, and they stuck to their guns. And that's why it's now allegedly £40 million, depending on how the lad progresses. So whether or not part of the initial fee is also going to Chelsea, and whether, through Southampton, or whether part of the add-ons as well, and it could be a combination of both. And it shows you the complexity of some of these transfers. And also, that explains why, when you read about it 3 weeks earlier, that it takes so long for it all to be finalised. It sounds as though you're not only coming to agree something with Newcastle and Southampton, but Southampton have to agree something with Chelsea. So very, very complex, some of these deals, and far more complex than we could possibly imagine. But I think he's coming as a right back. I think he's coming in possibly to give Trippier a little bit of a break if needed. He's certainly his cover for Trippier. And I think that's why Mitch is implying that perhaps releases Manquillo to move on. And also we're saying that Emil Kraft isn't fit for the weekend. And, let's see how long it takes, because, again, more competition. But it's just great to think that we've got a young English fullback that everybody says has more in him than potential, put it that way. He's someone that's excited the boffins in football. He's all the markers are there for him. And then let's just hope that the lad has a very, very successful career at Newcastle United, because, as I said right at the start there, sometimes versatility can be a downfall of a footballer as well as an advantage for a team. So the swings and roundabouts that occur when it comes to where he's actually going to play, never knitting down one specific position.
Is he going to be called Tino, Mitch? Because I've seen a few people in the chat already calling him. I've seen one or two people in WhatsApp groups not very happy. There's only one Tino. You can't call him Tino. But ultimately, what will be. It's his nickname. It's his name. Sorry, it's a name which I think the youngsters will probably end up using and using the same song. Tino.
Call him Pinocchio for all I care. There's no issue there with me. I don't think anybody has a monopoly on a name. Should we ever have another goal scorer number 9 with a surname with a Mac in front of it, do you think he'll be anything other than Super Mac?
Exactly.
And if even Super Mac cannot have a monopoly on it, then I'm sure Tino can't either.
Exactly, it's daft, isn't it, Steve? I mean, it's sentimentality, I guess, but he could be just as good, if not better.
I think we wait for the first utterance of Sean Longstaff, and whatever Sean calls him, we'll have to stick with that, because let's face it, footballers have some great names, don't they? They come up with also. I mean, he'll be Livro, he'll be Tino, he'll be Valentino, he'll be Valley, he'll be Frankie Valley. God knows, there'll all sorts be thrown at him. Let's wait and see what Sean decides, and whatever Sean decides, we'll stick with it.
Ian says tickets for the Salah Cup don't allow re-entry. I was going to watch the first half of the game, then pop out for some lunch and come back into the Toon game. Digital tickets should make it easy. Oh, dear me, Ian, tickets. Toby says, I know everyone slags off Castoria, but if you've got a blue light card and part of the emergency services, you get 20% off everything in the club shop, which is only right. Yeah, it's only right. Surely Livramento would have wanted to go to Brentford with 20 grand per week less wages. A bit of a chat going on. As always, big welcome to Paul Marsden. Good lad. Surely we can't call him Tino. Evening from my holiday in Spain. Hope all is well. Paul, good lad, mate. Nice to see you in the chat. And thanks for tuning in from LinkedIn. Show live on LinkedIn and Facebook tonight, just to try it out. What about Vimto, says Andy Davis, which is good. And Jules.
That's popular here in the Middle East. That's
what Vimto?
Massive selling drink over here because it's used at Ramadan because it's sugary. So your first drink when you break your fast is often Vimto.
Wow, well, there we go. You learn every day is a school day. Jules, thank you for the reminder. She says, if you'd like Super 6, don't forget you can join the NUFC Matters League. Just £10 available at NUFCmatters.com. There we go. John Justice Allen has sorted it out. The final prize at the end of the season is 500 quid. The codes are going to go out on Tuesday. NUFC Matters Score Predictor. Join the Masters Gang, entering into our own league, £10 per entry for the season. Cash prize winner every month. Exclusive Manager of the Month t-shirt. Cash prize for overall season winner, which is 500 quid. Trophy and a Manager of the Year t-shirt. So sign up today, NUFCmatters.com. Don't get locked out like I did last season. And I'm still locked out. Okay, Neil Calvert. Good evening, Neil. Made a few points. I've got a few questions. Don't worry, guys. I haven't missed your questions in the chat. just to say, after watching the other little snippet from the Prime documentary, Eddie Howe is awesome, man. He's gone up several notches, in my opinion. Another clip's dropped. This time it's the halftime team talk, or at least part of it, Mitch, from the Manchester United game. Or was it the start of it? It was the start of the game. The start of the game, sorry. Yeah, what it was great, wasn't it? I mean, it's given us a bit more of an insight, the guy. We're seeing more of him than we've seen of previous managers with all the press conference stuff that we do. But what was it? What's your view on the latest snippet? And
for me, it just fleshes out things we've been told since the first time we'd been told he'd walk through the door at St James's Park. When he was there, and I believe he came in and spoke to Charnley. And that's long before, well, not long before, but certainly before the then takeover happened, and he came in and did what he did at the interview there. That Jamie Rubens talked about very specifically on the podcast. It confirms so many of the things that we've been hearing from well-placed people for a long time. And it shows why he has such a cohesive dressing room and is well respected by everybody. I think he knows when to turn it up and when to dial it down. I think he knows when to use certain things and when not. And I know he says he talks about it being gut feeling, and it probably is, but that's a reflection of your experience. When you do something, you look at something. I mean, I could give you examples where somebody's coming to me clinically and my gut said, don't like what I'm seeing here. You make the right referral, and turns out your gut was screaming the right thing. And I think that's anybody who knows what they're doing, anybody at the top of their game, trusts their gut at times. I just think that we're going to get an insight into what an inspiring individual he is. And there's absolutely no reason why he, in my opinion, can't do anything he wants to do. He took time in Riyadh. I had about what turned out in the end, because people were off doing other things, about 15 minutes with him and Lee Ryder, of all people, in Riyadh when we were over in Riyadh. And what a engaging man he is. You can't help but want to keep talking and listen to him, even all the little details. And so I think everybody's going to see some of the things that some of us were have been lucky enough to interact with him directly, have seen and picked up on straight away. And why very much I think it's going to take something quite tumultuous to see him shook from the corridors of St James's Park, because he's essentially the part of what's built on the pitch comes from him and how he conducts himself.
Yeah, okay. Eddie Howe, we know he's a good manager. We know he's on his way to being a great manager. I think he'll do what others haven't since '69 and win a trophy. What's your view, Steve, on the latest snippet?
You know what? Again, it's quite refreshing, isn't it? We've seen it from other clubs. We've seen managers having rants. We've seen managers having fallouts with players, and what we're seeing is a refreshing sort of insight from Eddie Howe, a controlled Eddie Howe, very, very much in control, not just of his own emotions, but also of his squad. This is his room. He's in charge, but doing it in a very, very professional manner. I'm sure that there are occasions, well, we almost certainly know there are occasions when he'll have a rant and a rave, but that's only natural. But at the same time, I think Newcastle will be very, very controlled in what goes out on this 4-part documentary. It's just refreshing as a fan to be in the position to be able to watch stuff about Newcastle. I mean, other clubs have their own TV channel. It's on, constantly, and there's always little snippets going on. We spoke to Lee Marshall a long, long time ago, and Lee's now in charge of the communications aspect, not just the media side, but all communication. And and obviously that's an area of the club that's grown exponentially over the last couple of years. And we spoke to him and said, there should be stuff going on, and we should, there's plenty of opportunities because the audience is there to take it all in. That's what we eat, sleep, and drink football, and anything that comes out in Newcastle United is a talking point. We're just excited to get an insight into how our football club's now being run, because we had an opinion on how it was being run, and then the new people have come in. They're no longer the new owners; they are the owners, and they're putting their own stamp onto the football club. But we've also got a new manager who's now. We're getting to see how we ended up in the situation that we were in last season, with a manager who was very, very much in control, in control of himself, in control of his squad, in control of his club, and in control of us as well, because he kept our emotions intact. Because there could have been times if it had gone wrong that our emotions would have seen the better of us, But we even went to a cup final. We lost, but we didn't lose our emotion in that respect. We came back, and that snippet tells you exactly what we were all about. Revenge. Let's do them. Let's get revenge. And that's great. It's brilliant, Steve. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I did mention last night that I think the only disappointing thing for me is after having watched the Arsenal one in preparation for speaking to Gary last night on the Champions League show. If you haven't watched it, by the way, Gary Webster, who used to be Arthur Daly's nephew in Minder, was on last night on the Champions League show. But yeah, I watched the Arsenal one. It was 8 episodes. I'd watched a couple of these series in the past, but Newcastle's only 4. I just find that a bit strange. I think 8's too much, by the way. But I did feel, maybe 6 would have been about right. But, I'll judge it when I see it, like everybody else will. Not long to wait. And now, obviously, there was a premiere last night. Great to see the players all making an effort to get along there, and Amanda, etc. So, we will wait and see what happens. Tommy, I will come to Tommy's question, because he put it up on the Geordie's Here, Geordie's There show, and we just don't have time when it's an hour long to get through as many questions. He said, could Newcastle get NUFC TV on Sky and cable TV, etc., to get more money, to get people watching Newcastle worldwide, and then in due course generate more fan base around the world and help with financial fair play and raise funds, was basically what he was trying to say, because it went into 2 messages. So Mitch, I think Newcastle will work towards that at some point. I think they will end up on Sky. There's Liverpool TV, Manchester United TV is already on there.
Yep, and they're already available here in the Middle East via beIN Sports carry them. I think Etisalat carry them here as well. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see that happening at all. The building blocks are already in there. It's interesting to see they're bringing more media people into the club. Tom Bushell, who's a fan from a black and white background, you wouldn't think it to listen to his voice, but that's something of geography rather than anything else. Who was based out here with Dubai Eye Radio for a while, and he's coming back to do some of the media hosting in the boxes on match days. And that's more people coming in with proper media backgrounds, not somebody who just does it at the weekend. This is, making moves towards something bigger, possibly. They'd do well to come out here and speak to my mate Joe Morrison, who used to work for NUFC TV, and ask him about how to expand it globally, because I'm sure he could give them insights from all the work he does in this part of the world. And in India, he does a load in India. And so it's certainly one of the ways to go. And the other, like you say, Man U TV, Liverpool TV, Rangers TV, I think is available out here as well. So it's very doable and would make sense given that we're owned from within this region.
Steve, it's something which I think is inevitable.
Quite possibly, although I'm not too sure whether or not, and I'm sure someone can delve into it, or we can have a look at it. I think when you go onto a platform like Sky and that type of thing, it can actually cost you money rather than the other way around. I think a lot of these clubs are paying Sky to be on there as opposed to being on there to generate their own income. I think when we spoke to Newcastle about it, like I say, a couple of years ago, one of the things was, well, it's not going to be a revenue earner for us. We put it on our own platform, which is our website, so you can get it from there. I think probably what people are talking about is whether it can be expanded in terms of the output, and we see an awful lot more. But it was very much when we spoke that, you know, we'll use our own outlet, we'll use our own website, we'll be in control of it ourselves. So I'm not too sure. Somebody asked there if we'd be able to watch the games on a beanbag of some description. I understand from my understanding is that we're actually not allowed to show tomorrow's game because it's a 3 o'clock kickoff and it's part of the 3 o'clock blackout because, believe it or not, tomorrow the EFL starts. So straight away we're hit with that EFL FA blackout of games that kick off at 3 o'clock. So that's why it's not being televised. Whether or not, I haven't seen anything, but obviously Sunday's game I think is a 4 o'clock kickoff. So that and it's a Sunday, so it doesn't have that effect. But I haven't seen anything that says that game is available either on NUFC TV or, you know, you can get it on a hooky box or it's available like ESPN or something because the EFL starts tomorrow. So all interesting though, and I think this is the commercial side of the club probably coming into the 21st century, or the third decade of the 21st century. We've been in the 21st century for a while, but we're now in the third decade, and maybe we're just waking up to the fact that, you know, a TV channel of our own on a big broadcasting platform like BN and Sky and TNT, I think is what BT is going to be called now. Perhaps that's the way to go. We'll soon find out, because this is where, as we've said in our private conversations, this is where Sylvester and the new guy are gonna earn their corn, bringing revenue into the football club. That's what they're employed for, and so the level of sponsorship will be, you know, will dictate how long those guys will be at Newcastle United and how successful they'll be.
Yeah. Okay. Halfway through the show, time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com or telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces handmade in Cumbria. You can order them from their website, mrvickys.co.uk, or by telephoning 01768 210 102. A big thanks also to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. They're an agile and dedicated workwear provider. Welcome back as well to United Travel. They are a UK coaches firm and they are based in the Northeast. They've got 2024 tours, and you can contact them on 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Email info@unitedgrouptravel.com, and they've got a website which is unitedgrouptravel.com. There's no strangers on their tours, just people you haven't met yet. Big thanks to them for their sponsorship. Big thanks as well to Media Arts, and they supply all the video technology. If you want to become a member and get a cup, a pen, a membership card, and a scarf, then get your smartphone and put it over this QR code. It will take you straight to the membership pack. It's a £25 one-off fee. You can also go to NUFC Matters website and search membership pack to book today. If you want to help the channel, then subscribe to it by hitting the subscribe button. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video, and click share to share to your other social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. Don't forget, we help the food bank on this channel. If you want to do so virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. The Alan Shearer raffle is back on. 150 tickets, £1 a ticket. Win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball. Enter today at NUFCmatters.com.
Okay, thanks to Pretty Poppy on Instagram, who has just sent me a code, which I've just sent to Steve, where you can get a shirt, Steve, and you can get some discounts. So there you go. I've sent you that code on WhatsApp.
Fantastic.
Very, very, very good of them to do that. Okay, cover your ears, or don't if you like this music. The day I met, we're asked you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. Well, we've got somebody from the very present. Gary Cunningham, my son, said he was going out to play football with his mates.
Hey, wow. Well done.
Fantastic, that one. Brilliant stuff. Tonali, of course, taking in the bright sights of the northeast coastline. But if you've got a photograph, get it sent in and we will feature it on the show, just so we can play this lovely game. Darren says, football's back. Looking forward to it tomorrow. I just want a good performance both days. Enjoy it, mate. Dunnell says the 3 p.m. rule is total tosh. It's not a 3 o'clock kickoff. It's 3:30, says Yano. So maybe there's maybe that's why they managed to find a way around it. Both games on Dutch boxes for an unbiased commentators, which is not a bad idea. Ballot for Villa is cancelled due to unforeseen weather conditions. I've had good to see Mozza on her birthday weekend has got a ticket for the Villa game. I'm delighted for her. So that's great news. And yeah, lots of successful ballots and a few people who haven't been as successful. But there we go. These things happen. All right. Plenty of questions coming in. Andrew Malloy, good evening. Question: has the Premier League put a hold on more PIF companies' sponsorship for training ground training kit? Can't understand why we don't have any, as we're losing helpful money for financial fair play. Andrew, we did talk about this and touch about it briefly earlier on. The new guy coming in, that could be the reason. We haven't got a full crew on board the good ship Newcastle. That's the problem. We're having to sign people on board behind the scenes to do certain jobs. So hopefully Jonathan Kane is the man who can do that. Sooty, good evening. It always sounds like Sooty when I say that. I'm going to have to say Sooty. It's our last day exploring the coastal line of the Northeast. It's been amazing, and what made it more special was meeting the likes of Hasty and John. Both are top blokes and can talk for England. Sooty does say, can this current squad eclipse the squad back in the 90s? It's an interesting question. I did a talk in with Rob Lee this week, and Rob and most of the entertainers over the Ashley era, for example, when they were asked which players from this team would get into your team, the answer was always none of them. Rob the other night was asked that question and he went, quite a few. So is this team starting to eclipse the entertainers, Mitch? And does winning the glittering pot, which will stand in the trophy cabinet on its own next to the Fairs Cup, will that be the benchmark? Will that be the thing that says he is better than anyone who went before in the last 40 years?
I was going to say they nearly did it last season, didn't they?
They did.
If we won that Carabao Cup, they'd done, something that squad didn't do. I think what he's probably alluding to is the consistency over a period of time.
Yeah.
For 4 or 5 years, we absolutely didn't just challenge for title. We win Champions League. We gave everybody a game. We made waves through football, and we made ourselves famous for playing, attacking, and entertaining football. this squad, because it's still developing under this manager, certainly have the potential to eclipse it. Over to them to do so. And if they do, we're in for a bloody great few years.
Steve, it's an easier question to answer, I think, than it was when Eddie kept us up in the Great Escape, because last season was phenomenal. Back at Wembley, you know, had circumstances not gone against us, Pope getting sent off, you know, injuries and suspensions and stuff like that always play a part, but we just didn't turn up as the Newcastle we knew they could turn up on the day. These things happen. But then Champions League qualification, I mean, you know, it was a wonderful season.
Yeah, I mean, what this current squad are doing is they're stamping their own mark on it, aren't they? Their own quality mark, their own quality standard, their own kite mark, if you like, in terms of what they are going to make available to Newcastle fans to watch. I mean, and it can only move forward. The quality is getting better. The quality of the football. The game's different, mind, to what it was in the 90s under Rob Lee. The game's faster, I think, certainly. I think the players are fitter. I think the game has evolved into something that, and again, it's something that we've always had difficulty with, which is comparing era to era. I think if you take a Bruno, for example, or a Joe Linton, and then you try to say, would he be better than him or better than X and Y from that squad, or is Botman as good as Philip Albert, or as good as Darren Peacock, and you know, is Beresford a better fullback than Target, or you know, is he better than, as a captain, is Rob Lee a better captain than Trippier or Beardsley was, or whatever? And it's very, very difficult, and I think it's unfair as well, because I think you keep your memories and you keep your dreams alive. You keep your dreams alive as a Newcastle fan, but you keep your memories compartmentalized. I can't even say it. I'm not even going to try it now, but you know what I mean. You
compartmentalized.
That's the word. That's the word.
The word.
Those memories in those little boxes. And don't try and mix the cards up. Just enjoy what we're seeing. Don't need to go into this. Is he better than him? Would he get into that team? I'm just enjoying what this team is putting out together. And they're going to make their own history. They're going to make their own mark on Newcastle United's history. And I hope it's sooner rather than later. But I certainly think that the squad that we've assembled can certainly do that. And that's what's exciting.
Yeah, comparisons never work in any sport. So a lot of people saying that. It's boxing. You know, Mike Tyson, would he have beaten Rocky Marciano? Well, who knows? Do you know what I mean? It's you can't really do it. JB made an interesting point. So Bobby and the Entertainers, better first 11s, but now we've got the best squad. Interesting. Andrew says, I think this season's quadruple will answer that. Wow,
that's what I like.
Now that's a Paul Gallant kind of prediction. That Paul predicted 4th place last year, and he was right, no doubt about it. Okay, let's get through the questions that are saved. Sean, do you think Eddie will consider loans this season? He seems like a manager that wouldn't like loans in the dressing room, improving other teams' players. Good point, Sean.
Matt Target came in as a loan initially with a loan to buy.
He did. Yeah. So a loan to buy would be different.
I think loans have become increasingly part and parcel of the game.
Yeah.
You know, our dear neighbours down the road seem to survive on them.
Yeah.
You know, but that's at that level. But even at the top level, they're not uncommon between Italian teams. They never have been. They've always had a very different attitude to loans and multiple loans, and seeing the benefit of developing a player versus not having the preciousness about letting another team develop that player for them. So I wouldn't see Eddie having a particular problem with it. If it was a player he wanted who enhances the squad, enhances the dressing room, I don't think he would necessarily care whether he was bought or loaned.
Steve, I think he's right, Mitch. I think, Eddie's also mentioned that they may have to go into the low market. He didn't mention it in the press conference this week, obviously, but I have heard him say it in the past. So I think Mitch makes a valid point with Target. We've done it before.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely valid point. But can I throw a spanner in the works here and say I'm not a fan of the loan system? I think the Premier League, there should be no loans in the Premier League, and that's, for every club. I just feel as though taking another player from another club who has bought that player and then decided that they want to either have them getting football, but they don't want to play in themselves, or that putting them into the marketplace to see if there's an interest in them, or they're just, as Chelsea did and looks like they're starting to do again, build another farm of footballers that they just pass out and then make money on. And, Chelsea have players out on loan for 2 and 3 seasons. They sold a player the other day for 20 odd million that I think had been loaned out for almost 5 or 6 seasons. It's absolutely crazy. I just don't think. I think the Premier League is too big a league, and to have you then having to take players from another football club and not have the ability to just sign them for permanent. I personally would increase the size of the squad as well. I think limit it to 25. I don't like that. I don't think it's enough in the modern game, especially when you're trying to have players playing more and more games. That we're screamed for a winter break, and as soon as you get a winter break, teams go off on tours, and it kind of throws it all. I would like to see teams get the opportunity to extend the squad, and that would counteract the fact that a team goes out and buys a load of players, and then I just don't like the idea of taking a player from Chelsea or Arsenal or Man United or Man City or whatever, and then us, meaning it's taking the space from somebody else in our squad. I just don't like it.
Okay, yeah, lots of emails being received by people in the chat. Some people being successful in the ballot, others haven't. So great for those who have. Delighted to see 2,000 for one for the treble, says Colin, which is interesting. I had an ACL operation the same time as Gaza. Nobody'd ever heard of it before. I was never the same player after, no matter how hard I tried, said Richard. 30 players in the squad. David agrees, and JB says it's fine to loan a player to another division, but wrong, for example, for Chelsea players playing for Burnley against Arsenal. Loans are like try before you buy way to avoid expensive mistakes, says Barry. Question for Mitch and Steve Hasty. Do you think we'll get rid of Ryan Fraser in this window?
Who?
He's got a history of digging his heels in and hanging around and sitting on his contract. I think it would suit everybody if he was on his way, even if he was loaned out and we have to suck up some of the wages. But he's also shown historically that he's quite happy to cut his nose off to spite his face.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a toss of a coin. Who knows?
Yeah.
Steve, you agree?
Wasn't that one of our players this week? There was an article. One of our lads who has gone out on loan was talking about Ryan Fraser and saying how great he was to have in the under-21 squad, and how he's been helping some of the younger players, both on and off the pitch. At the end of the day, lad's a professional footballer, and if he's been ostracised or he's been pushed out, or we never know what went on, and nor should we. Very much a private thing. But the lad's obviously still doing the business in terms of keeping fit and mixing with some of the younger lads and letting them learn from his experiences. I mean, it was only 6 or 8 months ago he was kind of in the Scotland squad, but not. He was one of these players that was saving himself and didn't want to play in the Scotland squad. Then he was back in, and I think Stewie in the professionals on Sunday could probably talk about this a little bit in a lot more depth than I could. But I just recall he didn't want to be part of it when it looked like Scotland were in qualifying, but then when they started qualifying, he wanted to be part of it again. And obviously there's an awful lot goes on in his head. But it was nice to hear that the youngsters were talking about him in such a positive way. But it's his career. It's up to him in terms of where it goes, whether he wants to play or whether he just wants to pick his wages up, whether he wants to get back into the Scotland squad because it looks like they're going to qualify for the Euros and he feels as though he's got something to chase there. An awful lot going on. Whoever knows. Just like I've said it time and time again, I'm just glad it's not me that has to make the decision. I'm glad that's why Eddie Howe is doing so well, because he's making the right decisions. And ultimately, the club's going to have to decide with the likes of Ryan Fraser and some of the other players hanging around whether they want to carry on paying them, or whether they can give them a payoff and get rid of them. I mean, Hayden's another one that's still there and hasn't got a loan deal, and can't find a club. And I think there are quite a few others that we need to ship out. But it might be that we're just tied because of the high salaries that Ashley was giving them and the ridiculous length of contracts. I think haven't we got Hayden on a 4-year deal?
Still like that.
And another one of our players was given a 6-year deal and still got 4 years left on it. It's impossible for teams in the Championship to be able to take those players on without our club paying a considerable chunk of their salaries. And maybe that's also the problem with Fraser.
Okay, I've got plenty of questions coming in tonight, so let's go with this one from Peters Haddock. Love the name. Thoughts on only managers being allowed in the tech area? Is this a deliberate ploy to nullify Tyndall and his class antics? Might see more of a nasty Eddie. Yeah, I mean, PGMOL released some new rules, a lot of it to try and, clamp down on discipline. I mean, Jurgen Klopp running and berating fourth officials and pulling his hamstring is...
Pulling his bloody hamstring, stupid dick.
Is what it's more aimed at than Tyndall being in the technical area. But unfortunately, it is going to affect him. It's more to do with idiotic scenes like that, isn't it, Mitch?
Yeah, I know how it feels. But again, I think we've got to have a bit more of a winning mentality than thinking everybody's out to get with. We're bigger than that. We're better than that. And if you look at the reality of it, we're one of the few teams that wasn't fined for not being able to control the players, for touchline antics. You look at Arteta, he must do a half marathon up and down that touchline every game, and doesn't look dignified in doing it. And for all the fantastic shithousery we get up to, it's dignified shithousery. It's not Klopp running at the referee, pulling his hamstring, or if you remember, their backroom staff throwing things at our bench.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll affect us less. And if we want to be portrayed as the big bad, because some of the media already have, fantastic. We're already up your nose. We're already winning. We've already won the psychological battle. And if you think they'll not find a way to do what they do, they'll find another way. And that's exactly the kind of thing that Eddie can use to just sort of get the wagons around, pull everybody together and say, this is fucking ridiculous, this. The essence of what they're trying to do is right, though. There's a message that gets sent further down the game about respect for referees and respect for decisions. We have a problem with referees in that they're the combination of the two worst things you can have. They're bad and they're inconsistent. A consistent bad referee, you at least know you're playing to the same set of rules all the time, whether they're right or wrong. It's the inconsistency and then this inability for them to make VAR work properly that drives everybody up the wall. That does lead to frustration, and I get it. if ever I'm in a competitive situation, I'm not a nice person. I yap and talk and call people vile names and things like that. So I cannot really say much. But at the same time, you know, we need to be sending a message down to the grassroots, because we are losing referees at grassroots. We are losing people who just say, sod this, I don't need the hassle, I'm off. I don't stick your referees' badges where the sun don't shine. I don't need that abuse week in, week out. I think David's got a good point, and I think that's where it comes to making referees up and being able to understand and hear what they're doing. And because that works in other sports. We've just had the Ashes.
Yeah.
When you listen to the video referee making decisions and talking to the guy controlling the controlling the camera and asking for this view and that view, and he's saying quite clearly, yep, the ball, there's a spike there as the ball hits the bat, right on field umpire, I'm right in made a decision, bang. You know exactly what he's thinking, even when you don't agree with it. When those two catches from Stark and Stokes were given as dropped, they were, by the rules of the game, they weren't in control of that ball when they come to a resting position. One dragged it along the ground to help keep himself up, the other one hit it off his knee and he dropped the ball. They're both not catches by the rules of the game. That's proper application of a video referee coming in and saying, this is why, and everybody heard why. Whether you agreed with it or disagreed with it, you heard why. And I think, well, yeah, you've got to be able, I think, to get an insight into where referee's coming from and why he's done something. And so, for me, I get where it's coming from. I think tied in with that, with these new rules about time wasting, that's why we then get chucked in with this about adding time on for goal celebrations and deliberate acts of time wasting. I think also that tied in with us is the new rules on physical challenges and what you can let go and what you can not. And the way I read that from one of the links that I was sent this afternoon, the championship, I think, could become a little bit of a free-for-all. I think they're going to be seeing people probably booted right up the arse and get away with it, because that's going to take time to work out what's an acceptable physical challenge or not. I think the Premier League will not change in any way, shape or form, but I think the lower leagues, you could see some people not very happy because all of a sudden what was a foul last year is not being given as a foul this year. Again, I get the sentiment. I am tired of seeing footballers roll around on the ground like fannies. It's a contact sport, gents. It's a contact sport. And I've seen some tougher challenges and tougher responses in the women's game in the World Cup. That Canadian lass who swore at the linesman was fantastic. with multiple TV companies around the world reaching for the mute button and love that shit. And that shows the care, But I think whenever they make changes like this, as ever, the intention's right, but how it then plays out thereafter, it sometimes turns into something different by inconsistent application thereof, and just screams to the fact that we need better levels of officiating in our game in this country.
Yeah, interesting point you made about the timekeeping as well. It was a question that we got from Paul. He said, how do you feel about the extra minutes, Steve? Added next season, subs, goal celebrations, etc. Could be 10 minutes every match. I mean, Dermot Gallagher, former referee in the Premier League, was on promoting, the rules, talking about it on Sky today, and he had pros and cons about it, but it's a hell of a lot of changes to take in, Steve, as usual, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you remember the World Cup where the board came up was 14 minutes? 10 minutes in one half and 14 in the other half, and you're thinking, what the hell? It's ridiculous. I mean, let's face it, the referee has every tool at his disposal to sort out time wasting. to sort out abuse on the touchline. He's got a fourth official standing within 5 yards of the people in the dugouts and the people in the zone. And it's his job to control them. It's his job to stop it. But whenever you see it, it seems to be like there's a pally-pally sort of relationship between the fourth official and the people. And occasionally he'll wander over and go, get back, step back. Or he'll be pedantic and see you see it at St. James Park, pedantic, 1 foot over out the zone. And he's coming over and he's having a go at Tyndall, and Tyndall's giving him a bit of grief back and saying, I'm only 1 foot out. And, and then you see other situations where they're running up the touchline and nothing ever gets said. And the fourth official had the ability. You also see situations where a referee or an assistant referee, a linesman, as I still call them, will hear something being said towards him and he'll signal to the referee, and the referee will book somebody or send them off. While at the same time, you've got a fourth official who's standing there, who's getting mouthfuls of abuse from managers, and he's doing absolutely nothing about it. This is the inconsistency that Mitch is talking about that annoys me, or that's the aspect of it. As I say, the referee has every tool, but what you have personality referees, and it's gone on since time immemorial that some referees go out there with no intention of taking anything from their assistants. And you see assistants that will not make a decision. They'll not flag for a throw in until a referee's decided which direction and he's got a signal from him. Things like that. He'll not wave for an offside. This ridiculous situation that they've brought in, whereby they let the ball play on, and then somebody hits it over the bar, and then you'll go offside. That annoys fans. That annoys referees. It annoys players. It puts players at risk. That's the sort of thing that you see managers getting annoyed about. There's going to be a point where a linesman is going to allow the player to go on, a goalkeeper is going to hit someone, a player's going to be seriously injured, an ACL, we've talked about it, something like that, a broken leg.
That's exactly how ACL goes.
And then you'll see abuse from the bench like you've never known. But the referees have the ability, the officials have the ability, the people who make the rules have the ability to stop that sort of angst, and allow it to flow better.
The other thing they must do, though, if they're making these changes now, don't get to Christmas and go, oh, fuck, we've messed this up. It needs change back. Because they've done it before. They did it 2 years ago and they did it during COVID.
Yep.
And they did it so much during COVID, I was concerned that they'd changed so much that there could be a legal challenge to say, hey, we played the second half of this season under a slightly different set of rules. And, they do these things and they don't think it through. Has this been thought through? I very much doubt it.
And how many seasons have we got to September, October, when a rule's been brought in August, or a change has been brought in August, and then you see it being ripped apart by the pundits, and then all of a sudden it just gets forgotten about. Right. And it just gets quietly dropped. It's still there, but the referees don't go for it. I mean,
can we exploit loopholes in the new technical area rule? Goatfather says.
If anybody can, Eddie can.
I saw somebody suggest that there would be a hole put in the ground next to the technical area, and Tyndall would come up with a grass at did you see it? That was funny. That was funny.
But, we're talking about, I do genuinely think that this particular one has been brought in specifically for us. Very few managers have a number two. You don't see the number two of Guardiola. Guardiola's a control freak. Guardiola, and we've got other managers out there who, because their teams sometimes, Guardiola's an exception because he controls everything. And they have a style of play, and he makes sure that it carries on for the full 90 minutes. You have other managers who don't trust their players, who then want to coach them through an entire 90 minutes, and they're always up there. But there's very few in the Premier League that have a number two that stand next to them. Very few. And I think it's been brought in because they've decided, somebody's decided, and I'd be interested to know who let their mouth go, the most about it. I have my suspicions. And they're going, I don't need a number 2 to stand alongside me. So why is Eddie Howe allowed to have it? What's going on there? The fact is, they've got a good relationship that works well, and they work as a team. They coach the team. You know, they know exactly what it is. They have their own role. And it's always Tyndall. And yet we're now being penalised. And we've never caused any trouble on the touchline. There haven't been instances. You know, that's the... You know, there haven't been instances on the pitch in terms of discipline from our players. Yes, we've had sendings off and things like that, but that's part and parcel of the game. But we haven't had situations that have been allowed to fester because we've got a captain in Trippier who immediately gets in, talks to the referee, pushes people away, gets the player to get his mindset back into operating mode, if you like, and gets them to forget about the issue and just continue with their game, and he deals with it as a captain should. You have other teams where they're just happy to just let things fester, let things run, and that's then when it's that situation that then gives the referee a problem, you know. And I'm sure a lot of managers enjoy it, and a lot of managers encourage it because it intimidates the opposition, it intimidates the coaches, the referees, and the assistants. It's part and parcel of their psyche. Sean Dyche is a perfect example of that screaming banshee that is there when a decision goes against him. I've never seen Eddie Howe or Jason Tyndall do that, other than when it's something that is blatantly wrong. And we did have occasions last season where situations it occurred where a referee just made a blatantly bad decision that 52,000 in the ground could see was a bad decision, and it was right in front of the dugout. Even simple things like a throw-in going the wrong way, when you can see it's come off the opposition player, but the referee still gives it, and then the linesman goes and waves and goes, "Yeah, I agree." You know, that's the craziness of it all, Steve.
Mags, Gaz, surely Eddie will just stand on the edge of the area and have Jason still beside him on the outside of the area. So, yeah, I mean, there'll be ways around it. 100%. Thanks for taking the membership out, by the way, Mag, Gaz, and also to Rob.
Perhaps going to learn to levitate.
Well, yeah, somebody had him coming in on like a trapeze, like across.
Not in the area.
Hey, what about a 5-meter board? And he could just move out, and he could be above them on a 5-meter board, and just move it in and out. That would be clever.
Everybody wants to know what you're drinking, Mitch. People think it's vodka, wine.
If I said it was elderflower cordial, would anybody believe us?
I doubt it. So
it's elderflower cordial.
Oh, well, there we go. Elderflower cordial. A bit disappointing for Mitch's drink fans out there. It is time for Two Lookalikes. A couple of Hasties chucked in at the start from Sam Chipperfield. Steve Hasty looking happy as ever, he says. Tune lookalike. This one as well from Chippers. Hasty loves his fish fingers, he says.
I do. I must admit.
This one from Rita, who, as always, says, sorry, Hasty.
Rita just wanders around farms taking pictures of animals. I'm getting, I really worry about her.
And I chucked this one in, Steve. It reminded us of you.
Oh, thanks very much.
It's not a dog. It's not a dog.
Not a dog. Don't know what it is.
Albert was in as well. Hasty's new squeeze.
Oh, God.
Cracking on. This was from somebody on Instagram. Arsene Wenger and Deirdre Barlow, and Arsene Wenger and Deirdre Barlow's mum. Excellent. This one from Stephen Kennedy, not to be featured as a Hasty lookalike, so I didn't, unless you feel the need to, he says.
God.
And you're at the bottom, Steve, like Chad looking over the wall. This one as well. Bloody hell, someone's drew a beard on the Hasty doll from Stephen Kennedy.
Oh, come on, Stephen. How we?
It looks like divine. And that doesn't mean it looks divine. Divine was, as everyone knows, is an artist. Why is there a painting of Ric Flair in the Book of Mormon? Dear me, how?
That's clever.
I'm not sure who this bloke is, but he looks like me. Thanks. That apparently looks like me.
Right. Okay.
This was a pretty good one. Livramento and Sam Fender.
Ooh.
Well, it's got a bit of a look. He's
Not
got a
sure.
thick, he's got more of a thicker jowl.
Right. Okay.
I think if he lost a bit of, but David, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not a winner. This one always gets chucked in from now time to time. I never get sick of seeing that one. And Sutty, thanks, mate. Great show tonight, lads. During the show, I was sure I saw Spenny Mag off the telly when I was a kid. Rab C. Nesbitt.
Eddie, he doesn't need that.
This one was from Albert for old time's sake.
Yes, he's. What can I say?
And from Rita, Jabba the Hutt and Mike Ashley.
She's starting to get the hang of it.
And Mitch on Sunday. This one.
No, that is.
Very good, yeah. It was like Harry Potter growing up, wasn't it?
He does like a cartoon character, doesn't he? He's very odd.
Jack McCann found Joe Walker, Toon Tipster. Joe was quite happy with that. He said that is actually a video of him doing the moves. And somebody said out like Ben Kingsley from Sexy Beast.
I can see where that come from on that one, Steve, I must admit.
Sam Elliott and Woody Harrelson apparently got stoned together in Budapest.
That's good.
From Jimmy. And Stu Penman when the takeover went through. Kevin De Bruyne. And yes, the Prince.
Sorry, yeah. Well, yeah.
This is one of Tom Dixon's specials. And another one. Mama Fratelli from the Goonies and Louis Van Gaal.
Yep. I like that.
Yeah.
Lauren Baines, McFly, and Joey Barton. And Sebastian Vettel is top right picture straight ahead. That's not actually Sebastian Vettel.
It does look like him, though.
Very good, that from Iceman.
Well spotted.
More Ashes themed lookalikes.
Steve Smith.
And Darth Vader, Sans Helmet, and Peter Kenyon.
Yes, that's clever.
Top two this week, War Amanda and Juliet Stevenson from Rita.
I've often thought that one. Yep, well done. Yep.
And the winner this week is Sutty, two lookalike, John Justice Allen and Jimmy Page.
Very good.
Fantastic. Keep those lookalikes coming in. We'll feature more next week. John Ball, good evening. Evening, lads. Quick question to the three of you. Will Tonali start or be eased in like Bruno was? Well, I guess we're going to extend that question to will Tonali, Harvey Barnes and Livramento start or be eased in like Bruno and Botman was? Mitch?
Slightly...
So if we're thinking about it, right, I'll jump in, right? If just before you give your answer, I'll just say Tonali's been here longer.
Yes.
You would imagine, unless there's a major problem with communication, Tonali's probably going to be, as long as he's playing well enough, would probably be the more likely to start. Barnes has got an outside chance, I would say. Livramento's got no chance. That would be my answer.
And I think that's fair. And I think you're right. I think the different situation is he's had longer with Tonali. He's had him from a good chunk of the pre-season. Not warming up. Brilliant. You see, these are the classic inventive ways we get around things. Yeah, I think he's just had more time with him and also more time to get him how fit, as it were. You know, and so I think with Barnes, he's got an outside chance of dropping in from the off, but I Livramento, unless he does something ridiculous in pre-season, I can't see him slotting in straight away.
Okay, Steve, your thoughts?
First point was, has Livramento actually signed yet? Maybe we're jumping the gun. Um, so I don't think we're going to see him at the weekend. Might see him waving at the crowd if the signature's done by then and the paperwork. I think Tonali of them all stands the best chance, and I even throw Gordon into that mix. Because, you know, although Gordon was signed last January, we hardly saw him. But he had a great championship, didn't he?
Yeah, Euros.
And looked really like you know, fit and ready to go. I think I'm in your camp, and your response with Tonali. I don't think the others will be in the starting lineup.
I think Tonali will start. I think it'll be Barnes. I think it'll be Barnes who misses out. I think Gordon will be given a chance, and I think, as you say, Livramento is not a done deal yet, but it's a done deal. But he just needs to pass his medical. He's got no chance of starting. But it's a great question, John. Great question. Paul says, question, lad, surely for supporters that can't get to see games, can the club push for a streaming season ticket for all home and away games? Impossible with Sky, with the deal with Sky, sadly, Paul. Easy answer to that one. James says, what's your thoughts on Klopp dropping an F-bomb and a fan asking for an autograph? I did see this. No excuse for it, really. But, you know, it'll just be waved off, won't it, lads?
Yeah, because it's Klopp, and it'll be swept under the carpet and laughed off and what have you. This could be the season he properly unravels.
Yes.
Oh, no. It's going to be a great season for Liverpool. Suddenly Liverpool, Chelsea and Spurs are all going to be the best teams, the best versions of themselves. And
again, remind ourselves last season what they had to do just to hang on to our coattails.
Exactly.
They had to do something super special. And they deserve praise for that. Because they had to do it. Will they continue that into the new year? Well, no, they've made a lot of squad changes, and some of these transfers don't always work out. And I just get the feeling this could be the season he properly unravels. If he's already dropping F-bombs at fans in pre-season, that would suggest he's still not happy about something. And so let's say it works out.
Yeah, they did mention something with regards to the fan park that they'll be putting games on, but it won't be games. They can't stream live games from, you know, it's the whole rule and regulations thing, you know. So if they're televised on Sky and the Stack have paid their Sky fee, they'll be able to stream the games. So it's as simple as that, really. And like we know, 24 games I think Newcastle had on TV last season. So I genuinely think that that's what they mean by streaming games. It'll be just like sitting watching it in Shearers, except you know, in October you'll be getting soaking wet and you'll be freezing cold. That's basically what it means. Probably better off just sitting in the house and watching it. But Klopp, Steve, bang out with what he did today.
Yeah, of course he was. I mean, you know, ridiculous. He should know better. He's been a manager long enough. And let's not forget one of the things that Liverpool have built a reputation on is their relationship with their supporters. Certainly with their supporters overseas as well. You know, this is a long established Liverpool way. You know, they go on these meet and greets and these tours, and it's very much to really get to embrace the overseas fan base, and it's kind of the done thing, but not to start shouting and swearing it and whinging and complaining because somebody didn't stretch the shirt for him to sign and he was going to have to do it himself, or he was going to have to, you know, hand it to someone to do it for him. That type of stuff. It's petty. It's childish. I think it's a sign of a man under pressure. You mentioned about last season and chasing, where he was chasing us with a midfield that he ended up turning into acting like the Tinker Man, didn't he? He just didn't know what he was doing. His defence fell to pieces for long stretches. Then his midfield fell to pieces. At the start of the season, he couldn't get his strikers to score goals. They started to come good, and his midfield fell away. He's you know, defensively they were an absolute shambles. Even his goalkeeper at times seemed to have lost it for patches. And that was for me a manager under pressure, and of course his antics on the touchline as well. I'm very much of a you know, when I look at Klopp, I just think a man out of control more than in control, and he has this ability to con referees and con the authorities because he comes back all smiling. You know, Mourinho was the expert at it. He's become, you know, he's taken that mantle to another level, if you like, in terms of how he manages to get out of something by trying to use a little bit of humour after a game, or it wasn't meant like that, lads, blah blah blah. And the Premier League officials fall for it. Absolutely fall for it because it's Liverpool. It's one of the top 6, you know. But certainly we don't get away with it, and we don't even try to. You know, as was said earlier, our guys don't even go down that route. We've seen what we did in America, the way that our club handled itself, the way that Eddie Howe and his coaching team handled themselves off the pitch, the way that they embraced the tour. He's gone there and he's taken the hook because somebody won't stretch a bit of material for him. Pathetic.
Yeah, Ned Kelly's in the chat. He's a Liverpool fan. Look, I've made no mistake. I made no secret about it. You know, I've always had a soft spot for Liverpool. I love the atmosphere at the ground. The fans are very similar to ours. Both working class areas. Both got good sense of humour. You know, I do love a trip to Liverpool. I've got to be perfectly honest. But I think, unfortunately, Klopp's gone down that Jose Mourinho route. You know, I genuinely feel like, you know, sadly, sometimes people can't control themselves the way they should in front of the media. Is that because they've got, you know, they're not getting guidance from behind? I don't know. I think I liked Klopp when he first came. I had a lot of time and respect for him. I just think, obviously, he's had a pop at our club a few times, and obviously our opinion's going to change, you know what I mean? And I think, I always say this, I've said it on this platform before, Jose Mourinho was superb when he first came, you know, the attitude, the stuff that he was saying, the things that he did. But I think ultimately when he had that huge bust up on the sidelines with a female doctor, it was never the same. It was never the same. And that's just the way it is. You know, things change. Nothing stays the same forever. Little Sam says, a great moment for me last season was seeing tears of joy running down the face of the woman who sits next to me in the Gallagher for the Spurs match. Any great moments stick out for you guys? For me, Longstaff scoring in the semi-final. You know, I think for me, I think that was a thing to behold, and the atmosphere and getting back to Wembley and it being done at St James's Park. For me, that stands out for last season. Mitch, anything particular for you?
One I can tell on the telly. The Spurs game as well. The watching it in Brooklyn Bar in Dubai with everybody.
Yeah.
When Murphy's screamer went in, there was a palpable silence. However long it was, it felt longer than it was before everybody then went mental.
Yeah.
You know, it was that pause of, my God.
Yeah.
Bang. Yeah, that stands out very much. And credit to everybody who helped develop the atmosphere in Brooklyn Bar. Looking forward to getting back in there this year. I had a trip down there just because I could a couple of days ago, and all the flags are in place and everything's getting ready for the new season. So looking forward to it.
Steve, any special moment from last season standing out?
Yeah, a couple of special moments. I think the one, obviously, I go to match with George, and George hasn't been there, and he's been a big miss because we have some great conversations, and George's analysis of what's going on the pitch is second to none. So I've missed that. But I had John's uncle, Malcolm, with me on a couple of occasions, and turning around and Malcolm grabbing a hold of my shoulder and went, "What have I just seen?" When the goals were flying in against Tottenham, and I think when the fifth one went in, he turned to say that, and he couldn't get the words out. It was like the words were in his mouth. but he was like, and it was like, and the guy on the other side was exactly the same. And I'm stuck in the middle. I'm looking both ways. And they're just, their mouths are gaping open, but they can't say anything because they're just completely dumbstruck of what we were watching. And that for me was just like, it was just one of those things that you'll never forget. You know, you just think it was so funny. It was just because once it happened, and then you just like turn and then the noise appeared. You know, the scream. It was like a pregnant pause, wasn't it? You know, that to use the phrase. You know, absolutely tremendous. And I think another one was where I forget which game it was, but I just remember looking up and seeing like Patterson hanging over the top of you because you're sitting in front of him, I think, at the time, either alongside, and he pushed you, and you'd gone over, and we could just see Patterson, and you're thinking, are them his arms or his legs, because he was flying all over the place, and you just look around, and I think it was still 20, 30 seconds after the goal had happened, and he's still going absolutely crazy. And anyone who sat next to Patterson at a match will know exactly what I mean. The guy, he's got to be on an aisle, because if he's on a nail, you're safe. If he's not on a nail, then you're going to get annihilated at some point during the game. And it did happen to me on one or two of the cup games when we were sitting next to him, and it's just so funny to watch.
Anton, good evening. Says planning to be in Newcastle for the first Champions League home game. Even if I don't get a ticket, I think the buzz around the ground and stadium will be brilliant that night. Suki asked a question earlier on. If Tino was the player coming in this transfer window, was that maybe the last player? Would you call this transfer window a success? Howe was asked the same question in his press conference. Is it a success if that's your lot? I don't think it will be, by the way. I think there'll be another player coming in, and Howe mentioned potentially two. So, you know, is it a success already, Mitch?
Have we improved our squad?
Yes.
There's your answer.
Exactly.
For me, I think there's one or two more to come in as well.
Steve?
He certainly improved the squad, and I think he's brought the players that he's brought in will really, really help us this season. I think that again a different dynamic to the way we play, which gives everybody else who thinks, we sussed Newcastle out last season, we know what to do. I think we'll play an even more high intensity game at times. I think that we're again going to be the fittest team in the league, but I think we're going to surprise people because they think that they've sussed us out. And I think Eddie will have, with the variety that he now has at his disposal, will shock and surprise teams, and I just cannot wait.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Mark, good evening, says Willock's goal versus Chelsea was the loudest Gallagher law for years. I started to believe 2-4 after that. Top Bobby says Callum Wilson doing the Macarena in front of the West Ham fans. Yeah, he promised to do that, didn't he? On his podcast. Two more and remove some dead wood. A lot of youngins going out as well. I think there's a lot of youngsters have gone out on loan. Some more happy memories being at Wembley and feeling proud of our club, says Tim. Mark says Isaac with his hands on his hips against West Ham.
Good one.
The Mags Gaz says last season, Trippier free kick versus City, felt we had a chance of competing. T-Tank, when Isaac scored the double against Liverpool. Smashing Everton at Goodison. Wilson's curler into the top bin, says Ian. Tom says Isaac's hands on hips with the keeper was brilliant. Steve Middlemiss, Murphy waving goodbye and tapping his wrist against Manchester United. John's in the chat. He's been at hospital. Hope you're well, mate. Lascelles' yellow cards deserve a mention, says Ian. Lots of these coming in. Callum Wilson, of course, doing the Macarena was another one. Essie's poker face in the press conference. Eddie, I think you mean Michael. Eddie's poker face in the press conference is like Manuel from Faulty Towers. I know nothing. Klopp's teeth are like the white cliffs of Dover, says I like coffee. So much to look forward to this season. I've never wished my life away, but can't wait for next Saturday. Tom's favourite goal was Bruno's back heel against Southampton. The Volunteers, says Stephen, who cleaned up in London. And Melvin's sound says Wembley for me. So lots of positive comments coming in, etc. So 5 minutes to go. Seller Cup, Mitch. Last couple of friendlies for Eddie to get things in order. He's going to play two balanced 11s. I think it was the way he described it yesterday. And then he's got the big decision to make, Mitch, hasn't he?
And so fine tuning. There's obviously places up for grabs. I don't think he's settled on his 11 for Villa even now. And I think he made that clear the other week when that idiot reporter asked him that in the States. It's that he's made it clear he wants to see people emerge and come into view, So, and good opposition as well. Good levels who will also be at similar levels of preparation and should give us some good runouts. And I think that's important with something like this, is to be playing the right people at the right time, to give the right kind of workouts, to let Eddie see what he wants to see.
Melly Barnes is in the chat. That's why I said Wembley was the best thing for him last season, the cheeky
Oh, lad.
The Seller Cup, obviously the food bank's collecting tomorrow, Steve, aren't they?
Yep. The guys will be there on collecting from 11:30. The bus has to get in, or the van has to get in before 11 because Strawberry Place is closing. But there's certainly people there from 11 and hoping collectors and anyone who would like to volunteer and give it an hour of their time. Would be delighted to see them. Be there both days, from what I understand. I was up at the food bank this afternoon. There was a little get together of everybody who's involved with the food bank, not just the people who are part of NUFC fans food bank, and it was really nice to see all the volunteers and see some of the people behind the scenes at the West End Food Bank who have been there for years. 3 ladies in particular who have worked their socks off for 10 years now up at that organisation. There from the very start, when we didn't even know about it. Dave Johns from I Daniel Blake was up there, and he did the draw. It was very amusing, and again, someone who has been a great supporter of the West End Food Bank over the years, and it was just a lovely little atmosphere. So yes, the guys will be there tomorrow. If come along and see your hellos, and then obviously as the rest of the season goes, they'll be there every home game, as they always are. And just to the Liverpool fan, and yes, we got our inspiration from Liverpool, from the people who brought out fan supporting food banks, which was an initiative between Everton and Liverpool fans. And we have some great friendship with the guys from the Spirit of Shankly who set that up, and the guys from the blue side of Liverpool as well. So despite our criticism of Jurgen Klopp, we don't criticise the fan base, because they are genuinely warm people and very generous in their time and very generous in their support for what we do with the food banks as well. And as for the game, I think it's a big opportunity for us to see exactly what Newcastle are and what's going through Eddie's mind. I think it could be a big weekend for the likes of young Miley, although I don't really want to see him put under too much pressure from the fan base, because that's where the pressure will come from when we all see him do a little jinx or a little run, and then we'll all have people screaming that he should be selected from the start of the season. I just want to see the lad bed in. I just want to see the lad, be there and be part of the squad. And when opportunities arise, Eddie will put him in at the right time when he thinks it's right. And the same for Elliot Anderson. Elliot's come back as looking like a totally different footballer. He looks like he's matured physically. He's certainly done some tremendous work, and by all accounts, came back the fittest player in the squad. And that shows what we also have there is a very, very professional young man, and a great prospect. And he could be the breakthrough player this season. he could be the one that as I think was mentioned on a couple of shows over the last few weeks, that saves Newcastle United 40, 50, 60 million pounds in the next couple of seasons. So that's what makes it exciting. I think we'll also have a flavour for what happens at the back. In terms of left back, we might find that it's taken out of Eddie's hands if Shaw isn't fit. We might see Dan Burn playing at least one of the games in the centre of defence, and perhaps Lascelles in the other. And if Shaw is still injured, and whether Eddie would want to risk him at the start of the season. So little things to look out for, and little things to talk about. Some of those outcomes we'll be talking about as your shows go on during the week, Steve. And everybody should keep tuned, and it'd be great to hear people's opinion next week after the 2 games are gone. That's what I look forward to in the final week. People's opinions. Let's see what it is. And I'm sure every day next week you will have a starting 11 and you'll probably put up 10, 15, 20 different starting 11s from the viewers as the show goes on.
It's great to have football back, Steve. The summer months it can be difficult sometimes to create content on a show like this, but honestly, with Newcastle and the momentum we've built up, it hasn't been difficult at all. Some great shows over the summer. We've all produced some wonderful stuff together. And looking forward to the season kicking off, because now it becomes all about opinions again.
Exactly. That's why I'm going to be watching. That's why I'm going to be watching every show next week, because by the time it comes to Friday, I might have learned something, and I might have a totally different start 11 to the one I have tonight.
And of course, the dice will be back next week, Mitch. Looking forward to that. So fantastic stuff. And Craig Lee says, has anyone watched the YouTube video for the Supercomputers prediction for the new season? Yes, Newcastle came second
in the table
behind Manchester City. So Doug says the show's not long enough, lads. I'm afraid it is. It is tonight. We've already extended the professionals, though, to an hour and a half, and I promise you it'll be an hour and a half on Sunday. We're doing it slightly earlier, though. I think we said 11 o'clock, didn't we, Mitch? Was it 11 o'clock? 10
I think
o'clock?
so.
11 o'clock, yeah. But it is slightly earlier on Sunday.
Never asked me the different bloody time zone, man.
I know. It's always Penman, man. He's always changing things. Tomorrow, though, 10 o'clock in the morning, those were the days. Myself and George Mitchell pre-recorded quite a few of those, so that will be on tomorrow. And don't forget, coming soon over the next few weeks, this trophy's up for grabs. It's not the Premier League. It's the NUFC Matters Quiz Trophy. And 6 of the NUFC Matters panel are taking part in the quiz. And those shows are being recorded at the minute. It'll be a little bit of fun for you guys as well, so you'll be able to chip in the chat. But so far, 2 down, 4 to go. Looking forward to recording the rest of them for you to watch them, because I'm going to have a little bit of time off in the middle of August. For now, hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks to Mitch. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to the mods. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Enjoy your weekend. How are the lads? Enjoy yourselves. Take care.
Take care, everyone.
Weekend.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.